one quick question was I just wanted to ask about monogamy versus polygamy, or rather polyamory.
Yeah.
Just to, for those who might not know the difference, just to make a quick distinction between polygamy would be, what you have going on in Utah, which is a man with a bunch of wives, and polyamory would be just a mutual openness of relationship of romantic relationships with multiple people, men and women alike. Do you see is there one way or another for humans, or is it just whatever you prefer? Like, do you see any kind of a natural impulse in humans?
The humans are very complicated creatures because we are not purely species of Earth.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we carry Pleiadian DNA, which are pair bonders, makes it so that we have a drive for monogamous relationship.
For
And it's our
monogamous?
extension.
For monogamous, yeah.
Yeah, but we are also a blend of primate, which is human, pure human Earth-based energy.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have that primate energy,
Mm-hmm.
we also have that polyamory energy.
Yeah.
So we're a very confusing blend of both drives.
Gotcha. That makes sense, and yeah, it explains a lot in terms of the very public confusion over this.
Yeah, that's not going to be cleared up anytime soon.
Yeah, but there does. Is it safe to say that there is more of a tendency on the part of women to desire that monogamous relationship as opposed to men?
Just because and I'm going to tell you this is interesting. Yes, but there's one key reason.
Mm-hmm.
When you take a snapshot of feminine vibration, we are by far the more insecure.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of our need for monogamy and desire for monogamy doesn't actually originate from our desire to have a monogamous relationship. Because, ironically, what's more natural for humans is to be in a societal situation where it wouldn't really matter who fathered your child. You would have millions of people, not millions, I'm exaggerating, but you'd have a group of people that were there to raise the child with you.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't be as important to find one guy to protect just you.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, so the real reason that women are so into monogamy is because we are trained from a young age to be so damn insecure about ourselves that we need to find validation from somebody, and it's not very validating when somebody is in love with us and in love with someone else at the same time.
Mm-hmm. From
So you're going to see a lot more polyamory in the human race, the more secure that people get and the more capable we get of reinforcing our own happiness.
Mm-hmm. Because people will be less reacting from a place of fear, basically.
Yes, and we will. So much of our planet. It's difficult to describe to people because we were all raised in basically a similar way.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us were. So it's difficult to understand the truth of what's going on here, which is most everything that you are living right now is not nature; it's nurture. You would not have a way of knowing that sex was wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but it was between many people, unless you were directly taught that.
Yeah.
We'd be behaving more like primates, and ironically, it's like we draw this line in the sand, and so much of that is religious.
Yeah.
We draw a line in the sand as to what's an appropriate interaction and not. So you, with your girlfriend, let's say we have a girlfriend, if she went up and gave the guy a handshake, it wouldn't frustrate us. But if she went up and had sex, it would frustrate us. But the only reason that it frustrates us and the other doesn't is because sex has a different meaning for us than a handshake does.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to change what the meaning of sex was, then we would approach that the same way as a handshake. It would be like, oh, you feel that compelling urge to combine with that person? Then that has nothing to do with me. The same way that it doesn't really have anything to do with me if you want to hug that friend goodbye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just it's a deeper expression of the same idea, just a merging.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's these concepts of morality, the Ten Commandments or whatever, these rules that humans like to have of okay, now if I just follow these rules, then I'm doing the right thing.
Yes, so many of them outdated.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot to surmount those expectations and those cultural beliefs. I'm not going to say that I've even done that well.
How do you mean?
Well, even in my own life, I tend to be more of a polyamorous type of a person.
Mm-hmm.
But even I have those catches. It's not like I feel pure about every single time I do that. I've still got these thought patterns.
Yeah, well, when you're immersed in a culture that's has no acceptance for that, other than in a kind of denied way, or with these alternative spiritual paths such as tantra, etc. But yeah, it's a narrow doorway of option, basically. So on the subject of soulmates and twin flames, I know that you you addressed this in another video, and just to recap in a sentence, basically you said anyone that you're with now is your soulmate, or you wouldn't be with them. But is it possible that one soul could project itself down into a masculine and feminine expression, a man and a woman, and if you were able to find that other person on this planet, then that would be, your perfect complementary opposite?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything is possible.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be a relationship of pure amazingness, it seems like. Well, or challenges, but
which is what we're all looking for ultimately.
Yeah.
We all want that feel-good relationship, but we're only going to get a feel-good relationship if we have a feel-good relationship with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what I watch in the general group of people who really want to believe in twin flames is this sort of percolating energy of, I don't want to actually do the work that it takes to do that. I'd rather just find, a binky to put in my mouth so I don't have to face those things, because it'll all be satisfied by this person showing up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and not recognizing the inner work that needs to be done in order to create that.
Yes.
That relationship. Yeah. Yeah, because there's no way you're going to be able to make that connection. Even if that person did show up, you meet them in a bar or whatever, you're not going to be able to make the energetic connection if you don't have, access to those parts of yourself.
Yes.
To connect from. Yeah.
It's interesting because I'll just, for me in my sex life, this is interesting. I'll talk to you about my sex life today.
Sure.
But it's a good segue, because I'm kind of one of those women who I'm called a castrator. Isn't that funny?
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those women who easily gets with men, and because I'm very comfortable asserting my own opinions and desires,
mm-hmm.
I can kind of whittle a guy's power down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been interesting, though, because sexually, I prefer men who are incredibly domineering.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that essence of being kind of pulled and pushed around, but it's because I have enough power in and of myself that doesn't make me feel weak.
Uh-huh.
It just makes me feel like someone's met me halfway.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to get guys to do that. Now,
is it...
It's like over again, I'll meet with these guys, we'll have a sexual interaction, if I'm in a relationship, but we'll have our first sexual interaction, and I try to kind of push them into the masculine role. I'm like, come on,
mm-hmm.
throw us around a bit, be a bit aggressive. And they are so damn scared to do that, because it's been no.
Yeah. Because it's been that masculine energy without any kind of balance in the feminine within.
Yes.
And so they don't know how to bring forth both at the same time to some extent.
Yes. You see, what happens in the bedroom is kind of indicative of what's happening in the rest of their day-to-day lives as well.
Uh-huh.
I'm going up for that promotion against a woman. Now I don't want to seem sexist. I don't know how to interact with her so as to not seem like I'm a, nasty person. I don't know if it's appropriate for me to express my energy physically anymore, because that's been bad, because we've used that against women. So it's kind of like the feeling energetically around most men is that their hands are tied.
What is the importance of sex beyond just procreation and recreation?
Oh my gosh, it's as close as we get in the physical body. All right, I have to preface this by telling you.
Okay.
I can tell you, personally, by virtue of what I went through, that it is possible to use sex to enact control and the most heinous things, energetically and physically, that you can imagine in the human reality.
Yeah.
But sex is the closest thing we have, separate from meditation and all these spiritual ways, of actually finding unity. You find enlightenment through sex. That's the entire basis of Tantra.
Yeah.
It's like the unification of one soul and another soul brings you a lot closer to oneness than most people experience on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
It's a natural expression of pure positive focus, pure appreciation for something.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at something with an attitude of pure positive focus and appreciation, there is a draw to combine yourself with that thing. It's part of why there's this sort of torture when you fall in love with somebody of feeling like you want to be inside their skin and you literally can't do it. And this physical restriction that separates us makes us feel our separateness so acutely.
Yeah.
That sexuality is sort of the closest that we get to that merging.
Yeah.
And so it's a very natural expression of source energy flowing through us in the physical reality.
Mm-hmm. It's the most acute expression of that desire for oneness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is often why it happens between men and women. I mean, obviously, we're living in a reality where it doesn't just happen between men and women,
Mm-hmm.
but it mostly happens between male and female, because if you combine those two energies, you have oneness, see?
What are a few things that you would suggest to men to look for within, how to change their behavior, how to appreciate women more?
I definitely think that one of those things should be that men should look at femininity in general, not just the woman you're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Like femininity in general, and try to find aspects to appreciate about that unique energy. And especially the strength of women.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not looking at women in terms of what we're going to fear, we're looking at them in terms of what we genuinely respect.
Yeah.
Do we respect the fact that they can bring forth life? I mean, that's an incredible process if you've ever been part of that with a woman. My number one suggestion definitely would be that men understand that women do not enjoy weakness, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're not looking for the super sweet guy who's over in the corner and meek and won't ever assert his opinion and won't ever assert himself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What we want is somebody who's able to balance that energy of that forward-moving masculine energy, which does not have to be aggression. That's when that forward-moving energy crosses the line. Mm-hmm. So instead of aggression, it's assertion. Relative to somebody who is sensitive enough to perceive whether it's reciprocated or not. So men usually, when they go into the world or go towards women with that forward-moving energy, their energy stops moving forward. That's when we have these fearful men, because we have already projected that that's going to be rejected, turned down, and pushed against. And that fear actually prohibits you from expressing masculine energy.
Yeah.
So what it's about is learning when, being sensitive enough to know when that forward-moving energy is going to be received well or received badly.
Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the most important things, and is for men to learn how to sense a woman's energy.
Yes.
And that importance of men coming into a greater perspective in order to sense where a woman is at in that moment. And that's one of the most important things, is not to be on some kind of a playlist of, these are the things you do to get a woman's attention and get her to open up to you, but to be fully present in the moment. And the feminine energy is very dynamic and changing, and from one moment to the next. And that's what drives men crazy. But what I would
it's what keeps you coming back, of course.
Exactly. That's what, if men can understand and accept that basic fundamental nature of the feminine energy, that it is ever changing and transforming, as opposed to the masculine is kind of more of a sort of constant, basic consciousness.
I think it would be amazing and could come to a place where they were capable of listening to and learning from women when they weren't trying to get something out of her.
Yeah.
One of my basic frustrations as a woman is that it seems like men are only only wanting information from and receiving information from and interested in learning from women when they stand to benefit sexually from them. I feel like women, when it comes to women, the number one thing for them is about figuring out what they really want to do and following their desire. Because that's what's been, that that's really what it is. What the women's rights movement came about entirely because our lack of freedom in terms of going in the direction of what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So we denied of our basic desires. For femininity to come, and if we're just talking about just one thing to do, for women to come into alignment with divine feminine, with the next step for our gender, it's about following those desires.
Mm-hmm.
Look, this is what has happened. The reason this has all gone out of whack, for so damn long is because you've been prevented from doing what makes you happy and free. And so we do all kinds of things as women that don't actually fulfill us,
Mm-hmm.
Either we're going and working because we feel like we have to do that now, and that doesn't fulfill us, or else we're staying at home and that doesn't fulfill us.
Mm-hmm.
So we're very out of touch. I think women in general, much more than men, are out of touch with what we really want.
A friend on Facebook made a very interesting observation, which is that men tend to lead on the physical realm, but that the women lead energetically, and that if men can come to that place of accepting their masculine impulse to make things happen and be forward moving, etc., in conjunction with being sensitive to the feminine energy and that feminine desire and what she wants, then that's a place where you can find the give and take that makes everybody happy.
Oh yeah, and that guy is irresistible to women.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Real quick, I forgot to ask you at the beginning. Did you ever get the chance to watch any of my videos?
Yes.
Okay. Which one's the Divine Masculine or?
But the divine masculine and divine feminine.
Okay.
Yeah. So the reason that I was not more harsh, I guess, on the guys,
Mm-hmm.
is because I've noticed that men tend to shut down, especially in this day and age, to the feminist movement.
Yes.
And I didn't want to crawl my way. I wanted them to basically listen to what the potential was for mankind rather than to pigeonhole myself in an angry female category.
Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that, because I've had several conversations with men who are part of the awakening movement, and yet they have an extremely reactionary view of feminism, and there's a book called The Myth of Patriarchy, and
Wow.
yeah, when the men who are supposedly on the front lines of the awakening can't even accept that basic concept, that's definitely a bit disconcerting.
Yep.
And not to say that that's across the board, obviously, by any means, but there's a lot going on in the right direction. But
yeah, most of the men that I engage with and interact with on a daily basis seem pretty powerless to what has happened with women.
uh-huh.
It's almost the reverse. They kind of feel like, now I can't move right and I can't move left without some woman causing some huge problem for me. So they feel powerless to women now.
Uh-huh. You mean because of guilt over the
No,
imbalance,
it's just
or
because it happens. The feminist movement made it so in this society, even though it's weird because we're still living in a patriarchal society,
mm-hmm.
there's so much attention that is now paid to men who are doing that towards women that they don't feel like they can do anything without doing something wrong that's going to piss some sort of a woman off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like women, femininity has kind of stripped masculinity
mm-hmm.
of its power a bit. And so now those real sweet guys who feel super powerless to men, they have no idea how to express that masculinity whatsoever.
Uh-huh.
Because we, the general idea in people who have actually seen that issue, well, let's just leave those, I'm going to just say it on screen, let's leave those completely unawakened people that can't admit to the reality of what's going on planet Earth right now relative to women and men
mm-hmm.
out of the picture and talk about those that are aware of the incredible suppression of femininity.
Yeah.
They are now in this stuck place where they don't know how to be men because the feminist movement has made an enemy of men.
Uh-huh. As a overcorrecting, basically, of men rejecting masculinity out of guilt and shame and the desire to find greater balance.
I would say out of fear more so than guilt and shame.
Yeah, out of fear of true feminine power.
Yeah, well, more like out of fear of doing something wrong, making some misstep. So it's kind of like the feeling energetically around most men is that their hands are tied.
Uh-huh. Just because they don't know how to act, how to find that balance. It's a place of unknown, basically, of finding something that's been invisible to some extent. As I see it, it's like this sort of great darkness, the void of where masculine femininity is, and you just have to, the lights get turned off, you're in the darkness, and there's a tendency to think, there's nothing here because it's dark. Well, now you have to start feeling around and find what's really there.
So I'm curious,
okay,
how did you go about doing that? Because you actually do project a very strong masculine energy.
Thank you. I'm glad that you see that. Wow, where to even begin? I mean, I've been on a spiritual path for 25 years now, since I started meditating when I was 16 years old, when I had a photography class, and there was a dark room that was little used because it had a little crack in it, and for some reason I got the idea of going into this dark room. I didn't need this class to graduate, and so I spent almost the entire class meditating in this dark room. I just had this, this innate desire to go within and see what was in there, and that's just the very beginning of a very, very long and intense journey of just, finding everything I could find, reading material, every exercise, hitchhiking around the country, sleeping on the side of the road, and just dealing with the unknown and the uncertainty and the darkness, and dealing with, facing my anger. I happened upon an inner child workshop when I was going to school in Juneau, Alaska, and just had a desire to go to it. I didn't have any money. I think I told my dad about it. It was a couple $100, and he was like, I'll front you the money for it. And so I went to this workshop, and one of the most powerful lessons was that of tapping into denied anger in order to bring that power forth. In order to access, the reality of your essence that is beneath that, and that's the important lesson. Not that there's power. No one wants to go around the world being angry all the time, but to bring that denied part of oneself forth, bring it through you, and then access something beneath that, and come into a greater presence as a result. Just connecting with the truth of my energy, whatever that might be, and working with it and bringing it forth, instead of being in a place of go ahead,
instead of denying it.
Yeah, and instead of being in a state of being in which you're opposed to things as your identity, finding what you can affirm within yourself.
That's super important. That should be reaffirmed.
Yeah.
There's a difference between trying to form your identity by opposing things and forming your identity out of things that you actually align with.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's like worthy of its own workshop. Maybe you and I should hold a boy-girl workshop.
Maybe. That would definitely be a good one. I mean, it's the difference between, denying your existence and accepting your existence or affirming your existence. Spontaneous feminine energy triggers the masculine into their own connection with the feminine and awakens the feminine within. And so that's where men really get into resistance and problems, is that as soon as they allow the feminine to be that free, it triggers their own stuff, and that's a state of being that most men are not comfortable with, because it brings up too much stuff all at once.
Yes.
And I think that's really the connection point, is for men to recognize when that's the case and be more accepting and able to integrate with that stuff instead of seeking to deny it within themselves and within women. Does that You resonate with that?
Yeah, of course, it was wonderful.